single drop of water, heavy with the weight of the afternoon humidity, breaks from the tip of a waxy emerald leaf. It falls through the stagnant air, striking a lower frond with a sound that feels unnervingly loud in the sudden, expectant stillness of the canopy. This is the heartbeat of the Amazon, a world where silence is never truly empty, but rather a dense, vibrating layer of tension that settles over your skin like a wet shroud. Here, the air doesn't just surround you, it possesses you. It is thick, hot, and carries the suffocating scent of 1,000 overlapping cycles of life. It is the sweet, cloying aroma of new blooms fighting for sunlight, mingled with the pungent, earthy musk of ancient vegetation rotting into the black soil below. To the uninitiated, this is a beautiful green cathedral, a marvel of biodiversity. But for those who step beneath the suffocating ceiling of the canopy, the truth is far more primal. This is not a garden. It is a giant, singular organism, a breathing wall of green that does not want you here. The psychological weight of the jungle is felt long before the physical exhaustion sets in. Every step into the deep forest is a negotiation with an environment that views you as an intruder. The green wall is not passive, it feels sentient, watching with a million hidden eyes from the safety of the shadows. As an outsider, you feel your modern sensibilities begin to erode within hours. The constant drone of insects, the rustle of unseen scales against dry bark, and the oppressive heat strip away the layers of civilization. You realize quickly that you are at the bottom of a very complex and very hungry food chain. In the modern world, we are the masters of our domain, but here, nature is the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner. The Amazon demands a different kind of respect, a fearful, trembling reverence that acknowledges your own insignificance. The most cruel irony of this place is the mystery of hunger. You are surrounded by millions of species, an explosion of biomass so vast it defies human comprehension, yet you are starving. The green wall hides its treasures well. To the untrained eye, every plant looks the same, yet most are armed with chemical defenses that can stop a heart or dissolve a stomach lining. The fruit that looks like a succulent grape may be filled with paralyzing neurotoxins. The vine that looks like a source of pure water might be a woody trap. In this labyrinth, food is not a commodity. It is a secret that the jungle guards with thorns, venom, and deceptive beauty. Your stomach growls, a hollow, echoing reminder of your vulnerability, while all around you, the forest feasts on itself in a relentless cycle of predation. As the sun begins to dip, casting long skeletal shadows across the forest floor, a thin wisp of smoke rises through the tangled vines. It isn't the comforting woody smell of a backyard campfire. It is something different, acrid, sharp, and laced with a scent that sits somewhere between singed hair and wild honey. Through a gap in the ferns, a shadowy figure crouches over a small, guttering flame. The figure's movements are rhythmic, almost ritualistic, as they turn something over the heat. It is a creature that defies easy categorization. It has a shape that seems alien to your eyes, segments that shimmer with a strange metallic luster under the soot, and a texture that appears both leather-tough and unnervingly gelatinous. The steam rising from it carries a heavy primal musk that triggers a deep, instinctive revulsion in your gut. You look toward the local guide for an explanation, searching for the comfort of a name or a reassuring nod, but he provides neither. Instead, he refuses to even look in the direction of the fire. His eyes are fixed on the darkening trail ahead, his jaw set in a hard line, and you notice a visible tremor in the hand that grips his machete. His silence is a warning louder than any scream. He knows that in the deep forest, some things are better left unnamed. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. This mystery meal, prepared in the gathering gloom, represents the terrifying reality of survival. What would you do to endure when the rules of the modern world no longer apply? When the supermarket is 1,000 miles away, and your only hope for life is something your mind screams is death? The forest is watching, and it is waiting for your next move. The silence of the local guide is rooted in a memory far older than his own life, a cultural blueprint of a time when the green wall was not a barrier, but a sprawling, inhabited kingdom. We often imagine the Amazon as a pristine, untouched wilderness, a place where humans are merely passing ghosts. But the truth buried beneath the thick leaf litter tells a different story. Thousands of years ago, vast civilizations didn't just pick at the edges of this forest. They reshaped it into a managed paradise. They created terra preta, the fertile black earth that still sustains life today, turning the acidic, nutrient-poor soil into a foundation for millions of people. These ancient masters understood the rhythm of the rain and the language of the roots. They didn't survive in spite of the jungle. They flourished because they learned to negotiate with its fierce complexity. To them, the green wall was a pantry, a pharmacy, and a temple all at once. Today, we stand in the shadows of those giants, humbled by how little we actually know. To a modern scientist, the Amazon is the final frontier of biology, a place where a single afternoon of trekking can yield dozens of species never before catalogued in a Western journal. But for the local communities, these are not unknown species. They are breakfast, lunch, or a death sentence. There is a profound paradox in this plenty. The forest is a biological jackpot, where one single towering mahogany tree can house more unique species of ants than exist in the entire British Isles. Think about that for a moment. An entire nation's worth of biodiversity contained within the bark and branches of one living pillar. In this environment, every leaf is a chemical laboratory. Every insect is a concentrated packet of protein or a venomous needle. The line between a new discovery and a fatal mistake is thinner than a spider's silk. Survival here required a physiological evolution, a hardening of the human vessel to withstand the forest's chemical warfare. Over millennia, the people of the river basins developed stomachs capable of processing the heavy tannins and complex alkaloids found in jungle flora. They learned the intricate dances of preparation, how to soak, grate, and squeeze the cyanide out of bitter cassava, turning a lethal root into the bread of life. This wasn't just a change in diet. It was a genetic adaptation to a world that fights back. For the outsider, however, the gut is a fragile, unevolved thing. We arrive with the sensibilities of the supermarket, expecting nature to be intuitive. We see a bright, plump berry and think of sweetness, failing to realize that in the Amazon, color is often a warning, not an invitation. The annals of exploration are littered with the bones of those who failed to read the signs. There is a story, whispered among the river guides, of an ambitious explorer who found a grove of fruit that looked remarkably like the cherries of his homeland. They were red, succulent, and hung in inviting clusters. Ignorant of the local warnings and driven by a gnawing hunger that had hollowed out his reason, he ate his fill. Within 2 hours, his vision began to blur, the vibrant greens of the canopy melting into a muddy grey smear. Within 4, his muscles refused to obey his brain, and he collapsed into the damp ferns, unable to even scream as the insects began their slow, methodical harvest of his living flesh. He died not from a lack of food, but from the arrogance of familiarity. He tried to project his world onto this one, and the Amazon corrected his error with cold, biological finality. Now, as you sit by the flickering light of the guide's ignored fire, your own stomach begins to protest with a hollow, rhythmic growling. It is a pathetic sound, tiny and fragile, when held up against the deafening roar of the jungle's evening chorus. 1,000 cicadas scream in unison. A wall of high-pitched vibration that seems to shake the very bones in your chest. The sound is a reminder that the world is feasting all around you. You realize then that to survive, you must learn to see what is hidden in plain sight. The ground gives way to the muddy banks of the black water, a river that looks less like a life-giving stream and more like a vast, flowing infusion of dark tea. This is the Igapo, where the forest floor is swallowed by the rising tide of the rainy season, and the water is stained deep mahogany by the tannins of 1,000,000 rotting leaves. It is an acidic, nutrient-dense soup that inhibits most bacterial growth but supports a complex web of specialized life. It is beautiful in a haunting way, a perfect mirror of the canopy above. But beneath that obsidian surface, the hierarchy of the jungle shifts. On land, you are a clumsy intruder. In the water, you are a target. Here, survival means avoiding becoming the food of a creature that has spent millions of years perfecting the ambush. The local guide leads you to the edge, his movements silent as he prepares a simple hook. He is looking for a staple, the piranha. When the first one breaks the surface, thrashing with savage energy, you see the flash of its red belly. Its jaw is a masterpiece of destructive engineering, lined with triangular teeth that shear through bone with the precision of a guillotine. Even after the guide strikes its head, he warns you to keep your distance. A dead piranha can still snap shut on a stray finger. When cooked over an open flame, the flesh is white, lean, and bony, with a distinct metallic tang that reminds you of the blood it seeks. But the piranha is merely a scavenger compared to the true titan of these black currents, the arapaima, or pirarucu. This living fossil is one of the largest freshwater fish in the world, growing up to 10 feet long and covered in scales that serve as armor. These scales are so incredibly resilient that indigenous people have long used them as natural files or even fashioned them into ornate jewelry. To see an arapaima rise is to witness history. Unlike most fish, it is an obligate air breather, surfacing every few minutes to gulp oxygen. The sound it makes is a deep thwack that echoes across the water like a gunshot. Catching one is a brutal battle of strength. It is a prize that can feed a village, but its capture requires a respect bordering on fear. Its flesh is prized for its mild quality, but every pound is paid for with the exhaustion of men who know one wrong move could pull them into the depths. As twilight fades into total black, the river reveals its most patient predator. The local guide switches on a torch, and suddenly the water is filled with glowing ruby-red eyes, the black caiman, a creature that has remained largely unchanged for millions of years. While the piranha is a nuisance, the caiman is the king. Hunting these creatures from a low-slung wooden canoe is an exercise in pure tension. The boat sits only inches above the waterline, and as you glide through the reeds, the cold splash of water feels like the touch of a ghost. The smell of the river changes at night. The earthy scent of mud is overtaken by the sharp, fishy musk of ancient reptilian skin. To hunt the hunter is to step into a realm where the rules of the civilized world are erased. You're looking for a meal that is simultaneously looking for you. Every time you reach toward the dark water to wash your face, a primal voice in your brain screams a warning. In the Amazon, eating is never passive. It is a transaction. To take life from the river is to acknowledge that the river can easily take life from you. The risk is the seasoning of every bite. However, as the guide steers the canoe back to the bank, he looks toward the towering silhouettes of the trees. He knows that while the river hides monsters, the most consistent source of life isn't found in the currents. The most valuable energy in this green world is hidden deep within the fibers of the trees themselves, waiting for those with the curiosity and the iron stomach to find it. The true test of your humanity is finally about to begin. The local guide doesn't look at the river anymore. Instead, his eyes are fixed on a fallen palm tree, its massive trunk decaying into a soft, spongy mass of vibrant orange fibers. He approaches it with a small machete, performing a surgical strike with practiced, effortless ease. With a single, calculated blow, he splits the rotting wood. Inside, nestled in a damp, protected cavity, are the creatures you never truly hope to see. The mojojoy. These larvae of the palm weevil are thick, milk-white, and pulsing with a strange, rhythmic life. To a Western eye, they represent the absolute embodiment of decay. But as the guide pulls one out, his face shows only a quiet, practical satisfaction. He offers it to you, the heavy grub wriggling between his fingers, its dark, chitinous head searching for purchase in the humid air. Eating a mojojoy is the ultimate crossing of a psychological border, where your identity as a product of civilization ends and your biological nature begins. If you eat it raw, as the environment demands, the experience is startlingly complex. There is an initial resistance, a thin skin that snaps audibly under the pressure of your teeth. This is the pop that many travelers describe with a mixture of terror and awe. But once that barrier is broken, the interior is creamy, almost like a rich vanilla custard. The flavor is a shock. It doesn't taste like rot or soil. Instead, it carries the concentrated essence of the palm itself, a fatty, nutty sweetness reminiscent of coconut milk and aged, sun-drenched wood of the ancient canopy. You are consuming the pure energy the tree spent decades pulling from the equatorial sun. While your conscious mind may recoil, your physical body understands the mathematical logic of the Amazon perfectly. This is the superfood of the ancient past. Ounce for ounce, these grubs contain more protein and healthy fats than prime beef, with a tiny environmental footprint. Insects are the hidden batteries of the ecosystem, turning forest waste into high-density biological fuel. For indigenous tribes, the mojojoy is a delicacy, a seasonal gift providing the stamina needed to navigate the grueling jungle terrain. Science is only now catching up to what the shaman has known for centuries. The most efficient way to survive is to eat the things that eat the forest. But the mojojoy is just the beginning of the pulse beneath the bark. As the guide moves deeper into the shadows, he points toward the damp earth near the massive roots of a towering saber tree. Here, the ground itself seems to breathe. He uncovers giant earthworms that stretch several feet in length. They are thick cords of purple and gray, churning through the nutrient-rich humus with incredible muscular power. In times of true desperation, even these are considered a source of vital life. It forces a terrifying question into your mind. At what point does hunger finally overcome ingrained disgust? The jungle strips away the luxury of being picky. When the belly is hollow, the brain stops seeing gross and starts seeing the simple will to see another sunrise. Suddenly, the guide stops by a tree that looks unremarkable. He looks for the lemon ant, a tiny resident of the bark. He picks a few translucent insects and gestures for you to taste them. They are weightless on your tongue, almost invisible. But when you bite down, there is a sudden, sharp burst of citrus, a vivid, electric flavor that cuts through the heavy, humid air. They taste more like lemon than the fruit itself. It is a sensory anomaly, a reminder that the jungle is full of small, hidden rewards for the observant. These ants live in a symbiotic relationship with the trees, creating clearings known as Devil's Gardens, and in return, they offer the traveler a momentary spark of zest in an otherwise grueling and monotonous journey. However, as the sun dips lower, casting long, skeletal shadows across the forest floor, the mood shifts significantly and palpably. The local guide's pace quickens, and his playfulness regarding the ants disappears. He knows that while insects provide raw energy, the deeper secrets of the jungle, the forbidden traditions, require much more than a strong stomach. These traditions involve the shedding of blood and the navigating of spiritual boundaries that no amount of scientific data can explain. The energy of the grubs is merely the physical layer. To survive the coming night, one must understand the sacred flesh that the shaman speaks of in hushed, reverent tones. The sun is slowly sinking, and shimmering orange light of the dying day filters through the canopy. The local guide stops his pace, his demeanor shifting from the casual hunter of insects to a man weighted by ancient expectations. For the shaman and the vibrant tribes that call these river basins home, the act of hunting is far more than a quest for calories. It is a sacred contract, a profound transaction of souls. In the village, the shaman oversees the ritual of the hunt, ensuring that every life taken is acknowledged with reverence. To them, the jungle is not a supermarket, it is a temple. Killing an animal isn't just about the meat. It is about taking its spirit and incorporating that vital energy into the tribe. If the ritual is not followed, the balance is broken, and the green wall becomes a vengeful judge. There is an invisible map of taboos that dictates what can and cannot be eaten. Some animals are strictly off-limits, protected by a protective mix of spiritual dread and hidden biological wisdom. The guide speaks in hushed tones about the boto, the pink river dolphin. To the people here, the boto is a shapeshifter, a being of power that can walk among humans at night. To harm one is to invite a madness that no medicine can cure. These taboos often act as an ancient form of conservation, protecting animals that are essential to the ecosystem or those whose meat might carry dangerous pathogens. It is a world where the line between a spirit and a biological warning is non-existent, woven into a single narrative of survival. Perhaps the most difficult tradition for an outsider to witness is the monkey hunt. High above the forest floor, the howler monkeys and spider monkeys move through the canopy like nimble shadows. The weapon used is the blowgun, made from the sacred wood of a palm tree. It is nearly 10 feet long, straight, and surprisingly heavy. The hunter uses a dart tipped with curare, a dark resin carefully extracted from a jungle vine. The hunt is a remarkable masterclass in silence. There are no gunshots to alert the forest, only gentle, soft sound of breath through the tube. The chemistry of death involved here is deeply fascinating. Curare is a powerful alkaloid that acts as a blocking agent. Once the dart pierces the skin, the poison rapidly paralyzes the voluntary muscles. The monkey, unable to grip the branches any longer, simply slips away from the sky. It is a quiet, eerie descent through the leaves. The paradox of curare is that while it is lethal in the bloodstream, the meat remains safe for consumption. The poison molecules are too large to be absorbed through the digestive system, meaning the tribe can enjoy the harvest without any risk of being paralyzed. It is a delicate balance of science and tradition, an ancient knowledge passed down through years. While the hunters seek life in the trees, others find it on the shifting banks of the river. During the dry season, the harvest of turtle eggs becomes a vital source of protein. On the warm, wet sand, the villagers search for the telltale tracks of the river turtle. Finding a nest feels like discovering hidden treasure. The eggs are soft, smelling of the damp earth and the ancient river. The gathering is a communal event, held under the watchful eye of the shaman. As the sun disappears, the smell of wood smoke fills the clearing. This smoke never truly goes out. It is the constant companion of the village, a fragrant barrier against the biting insects and the creeping things of the night. The shaman's voice begins to rise in a low, rhythmic chant that seems to vibrate. He burns sacred resins, the sweet scent of copal mixing with the smell of roasting meat. The ritual is meant to appease the forest, asking the spirits for forgiveness for the warm bloodshed. It is a sensory immersion that pulls you into a timeless dimension. But as the fire crackles, the local guide's posture suddenly changes. He isn't listening to the chant. He is staring into the blackness. He knows the rituals provide order, but the jungle always has the final word. There is something in the darkness that no ritual can tame, watching us with an intensity that makes the hair on your neck stand up. The shadows are no longer still. They are moving. The fire crackles, a small amber eye flickering in an ocean of obsidian. The local guide's gaze remains fixed on the tree line, his posture rigid. He doesn't need to see the jaguar to know it is there. In this world, the jaguar is the ghost in the machine, the apex of a food chain that begins with a blade of grass and ends in those gold-rimmed pupils. It is the undisputed king of the shadows. Science tells us that the jaguar possesses the strongest bite of any big cat, capable of piercing the thick shells of turtles or the armored skulls of caiman with ease. But the guide doesn't care about biological data or bite force statistics. To him, the jaguar is a spiritual weight, a heavy presence that makes the very air feel thick. You feel a prickle on your skin, a phantom gaze that tracks your every breath. When the king moves, the forest speaks in a language of fear. The birds, usually a chaotic orchestra of calls, suddenly shift their tune. There is a specific frantic cadence to the alarm calls of the spider monkeys, a rhythmic, staccato barking that tells every living thing that the hunter has arrived. Then comes the most terrifying sound of all: the silence. It isn't a true absence of noise, but a sudden, synchronized pause by the thousands of insects and amphibians that usually dominate the soundscape. The crickets stop their chirping. The frogs hold their breath. In that sudden vacuum, you realize that the Amazon isn't just a place where you look for food. It is a place where you are the potential meal. The hierarchy of the modern world, where humans sit comfortably at the top of the pyramid, is stripped away in seconds. Here, you are just another source of protein, another set of calories in the endless cycle of the jungle's hunger. The green wall is no longer just a backdrop. It is a sentient spectator watching your every move. The guide whispers about things even the jaguar avoids. He speaks of the lost tribes, peoples who chose to remain deep within the green, forever out of reach of the encroaching modern world. These aren't just people to the locals. They are guardians, almost ethereal entities that move through the undergrowth without snapping a single twig. They are the true masters of the unknown. The locals believe that if you stray too far into certain forbidden clearings, the forest itself will claim you, not through a sudden act of violence, but through a gentle, irreversible fading into the green. It is a psychological weight that matches the physical humidity, a sense that you are trespassing in a cathedral that has no interest in your salvation. As the light vanishes entirely, the jungle transforms into a different dimension. The rules of daytime navigation become useless. Distances are distorted, and every snap of a branch sounds like a gunshot. This is why no one, not even the most experienced hunters, stays in the deep forest after the sun goes down. The night belongs to the things that don't need light to kill. It is a sensory overload of damp soil, decaying wood, and the heavy musk of predators, yet a total deprivation of sight. You are reduced to your most primal instincts, huddled near a fire that feels far too small against the encroaching blackness. However, there is a different kind of shadow moving through the Amazon now, one far more lethal than any feline predator. The guide points toward the distant horizon, where the tree line suddenly breaks. He speaks of the yellow scars, the illegal gold mines that turn pristine rivers into toxic veins of mercury. The green wall is being breached from the outside. Every year, the loggers push deeper, and the animals retreat. The jaguar, once the undisputed ruler of this kingdom, is finding its territory shrinking. The delicate balance that the shaman maintains through ritual and ancient tradition is being shattered by the cold, hard logic of extraction. The guide's voice is heavy with a quiet, simmering grief. He remembers a time when the arapaima were so plentiful you could practically see their scales shimmering in every bend of the river. Now, he must travel for days just to find a single nest of turtle eggs or a tree healthy enough to house a colony of grubs. The food that defined his people, the sacred flesh and the hidden proteins, is becoming a memory. If the forest disappears, the unknown disappears with it, and we aren't just losing trees, we are losing the blueprint of human resilience. The shadows are moving, but tonight they are fleeing. The guide looks at the dying embers of our fire and asks a question that lingers in the humid air. When the last animal moves further into the dark and the last tradition is forgotten, what happens to us? If the jungle stops being a mirror, we might finally lose sight of who we truly are. The next move isn't the jungle's to make, it is ours. As the first gray light of dawn begins to filter through the suffocating canopy, the tension of the night starts to dissolve, but the weight on my chest remains. The fire is nothing but white ash now, a pale ghost of the protection it offered against the obsidian dark. I look at my hands, stained with the juice of the palm grub and the grit of the riverbank, and I realize that the man who entered this forest weeks ago is dead. In his place sits someone who no longer flinches at the sound of a snapping branch or the crawl of an insect across his skin. The Amazon has done more than just test my physical limits. It has acted as a mirror, reflecting a version of myself I never knew existed. When you are stripped of your digital maps, your processed foods, and the safety net of civilization, the ego evaporates. You are left with the raw, vibrating reality of your own pulse. You aren't a conqueror here, you are a guest, and a temporary one at that. The local guide is already moving, his silhouette blending into the morning mist that clings to the floor like a heavy, wet shroud. He doesn't offer words of comfort or congratulations for surviving another night. Instead, he gestures toward a small bundle wrapped in large, waxy leaves. This is our final meal together before the long journey back toward the edge of the world I recognize. We sit on the damp earth, the smell of wet moss and decaying wood filling our lungs as the jungle slowly wakes up around us. Inside the leaves are pieces of smoked fish, caught from the black waters, and a handful of small, tart fruits gathered in the dim light of the morning. There is no seasoning, no silver utensils, and no ceremony beyond the quiet gratitude that radiates from the guide's eyes. As I eat, I realize that this is the most honest meal I have ever consumed. It wasn't bought with a credit card. It was earned through patience, knowledge, and a deep respect for the cycle of life. Every bite is a connection to the soil, the water, and the ancient lineage of those who mastered the green wall long before my ancestors knew it existed. The metallic tang of the fish and the sharp acidity of the fruit dance on a tongue that has forgotten the blandness of modern life. The intellectual takeaway is sharp and undeniable. We often think of survival as a battle, a violent struggle to impose our will on the environment. But the jungle teaches a different lesson. True survival is about being the most connected, not the most powerful. It is about understanding the language of the birds, the subtle shifts in the wind, and the hidden messages written in the bark of a tree. The modern world treats nature as a resource to be extracted, but the Amazon demands it be treated as a nervous system we are lucky to be a part of. If we continue to treat the unknown as a frontier to be conquered or a nuisance to be paved over, we lose the very thing that makes us human, our ability to adapt, to wonder, and to coexist with things far older than ourselves. The shaman joins us briefly, his presence a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. He is silent, but he touches the trunk of a mahogany tree with a reverence that borders on the sacred. To him, this isn't just wood. It is a living history, a sentinel that has seen centuries of human folly and natural grace. His silent gaze reminds me that we spend our lives avoiding the unknown, fearing what we cannot categorize, label, or control. Yet it is precisely in the unknown that our true nature is found. It is where our instincts are sharpened and our arrogance is humbled. The jungle never judges. It simply exists, and in its existence, it provides a sacred template for living. As the camera pulls back above the trees, showing the endless green ocean, the jungle knows its secrets. It will keep them long after we are gone. The forest is watching, and it's waiting for your next move.